Welcome to Nikki's Nightmares, where chilling tales come to life. In today's terrifying story, we descend into the dark heart of the Appalachian Mountains, where a lone Forest Service worker finds himself stalked by something unnatural. Twisted branches, eerie silence, and a lurking predator hidden in the timberline turn his routine patrol into a nightmare that will leave you glancing over your shoulder and dreading the woods at night. If you love scary stories, paranormal encounters, and true horror experiences, you're in the right place. Make sure to like, subscribe, and join me as we delve into the deep, dark, and the mysterious. I'm sharing this because I don't know what else to do. My employer won't listen, the police dismissed me, and if I tell my family, they'll think I've lost my mind. So I'm telling strangers instead. Maybe you'll believe me. I work in the Forestry Service. 10 years of service in the Appalachian Mountains. I measure timber, assess which trees can be cut and which must remain. Most of the time, the work is calm, peaceful. I used to feel at home among the trees, but not anymore. On August 31st, 2018, I received a new assignment, a massive tract near the Monongahela National Forest in West Virginia. True old growth, untouched for centuries. Forests like that are nearly gone. To be given the task of surveying one should have been an honor. Instead, it was a curse. I packed my gear, spray paint, tools, camping kit, drove 4 hours in my old white Chevy S10, a truck I'd named Penelope years ago. She'd carried me faithfully through the mountains. She carried me there too, straight to the edge of hell. The trail to the tract was narrow, swallowed by weeds. A huge white oak tree blocked part of the path. 12 feet up, tangled in its branches, hung the skeleton of a deer. Ribs twisted, scraps of fur clinging to bone. At first, I thought maybe a mountain lion had dragged it up there, but the longer I looked, the sicker I felt. It wasn't tangled. It was tied, roped into place like some grotesque puppet. Beneath it, carved faintly into the bark, was a symbol, an upside-down cross. I forced myself onward, told myself it was old, harmless. By dusk, I reached the edge of the stand, and I'll tell you this, old growth is different. The trees tower like pillars. The canopy blocks the sun so completely that the forest floor is nearly bare. It feels like stepping into another world. I set camp at the border, lit a small fire, and lay in my tent. But the woods felt wrong. No insects, no birds. Only silence, broken once by a lone owl. At dawn, I crawled from my tent and froze. A man stood there with a shotgun pointed at my head. He was old, wrinkled, dressed in worn-out coveralls. After a moment, he lowered the gun and muttered an apology. Said he didn't expect anyone here. He gave his name, Sam White. Claimed his family once owned this land before it was sold. Then he said something strange, something I still can't shake. Most tents you find up here are empty. And then he walked away. That day, I began my survey. I worked quickly, spray painting red X's on the trees marked for harvest. But the deeper I went, the more uneasy I became. Near the heart of the stand, in a shallow valley, I found it. An old Winnebago, rusted, tires flat, moss thick on the windows. It looked as though it had been there for decades. No crash marks, no sign of how it had arrived. I stepped inside with my flashlight, seats gutted by vermin, cupboards filled with pulp where food once sat, a thermos labelled "Number 1 Dad," and another "Number 1 Mom." At the back, a narrow door. The smell hit before I opened it. Rot. Wet mold. On the bed lay a heap of clothes, soaked and blackened. 3 sizes, 2 adults, 1 child, and perched on top was a deer carcass. Its body was broken, twisted and mangled, antlers draped in moss, eye sockets hollow. At the headboard, scattered bones of others left before it. I stumbled back outside to vomit and froze again. The X's I'd painted in the valley had moved. Every single one now faced me like glowing red eyes in the dark. I retched into the mud. The puddle caught my bile, and there, clear in the muck, was an enormous footprint. Half-human, bare, massive, as if something walked on its toes. I ran, God help me, I ran until I reached camp. I built a fire higher than I ever had, sat in my tent, shaking, clutching my knife. Hours passed. At 3:30 in the morning I heard it, snap of a branch, close. I crept outside. The fire burned low. An owl sat in a tree, eyes catching the glow. I nearly laughed with relief. Then I saw it. 6 feet away, crouched in the dirt, was the thing. Its body was all bone and sinew under pale white, greasy skin. Arms too long to be a man, legs bent unnaturally like an animal's hind legs, fingers, 6 on each hand, tipped with jagged and incredibly sharp nails. It smelled of rot and death. Its face was even more horrific. A long nose, crooked chin, a lipless mouth stretched into a grin, teeth too many, too human, and eyes, not blind, no. Red orbs rolled beneath thin film, twitching, staring. It lifted one finger to its mouth as if to hush me. Shh! I bolted. Behind me came a screech, a sound that didn't belong of this world. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until I blacked out. Daylight woke me. I stumbled back to Penelope, bloodied and broken, climbed inside, locked the doors, and then I felt it, burning across my chest. I tore my shirt open. Sprayed onto my skin was a bright red X. Months passed. I filed reports. They were dismissed. I begged to be reassigned. They ignored me. February 3rd, 2019. The order came. Return to the Monongahela tract. The work was imperative. I drove back, numb. The huge white oak tree still held the bones. My old tent still stood, shredded. The firing stones had been stacked into a perfect pyramid. At the top was my pocket knife. I kicked the pyramid down, rebuilt camp, set a perimeter of twine and cans. It wouldn't help, but I needed something. The next morning, I entered the stand again. The paint was gone. Every X I had marked 6 months earlier had vanished. I worked anyway. Hours passed, and I began to see things. A baby crib frame rusting in moss, a hunter's cap stuffed in the rocks, bones lashed high in branches, even a nest of twine and cans identical to the trap I had set around my camp. Near sundown, I found a sinkhole filled with water. Floating inside was a bloated corpse of a dog. Strapped to its chest was my old backpack. A twig snapped. I spun. Sam stood there. He opened his mouth to speak. Then the thing struck. It slammed him into the dirt, silent as smoke. I staggered back. It turned toward me, pale face grinning. One arm lashed out and hit me like a sledgehammer. I flew backward into the sinkhole, water rushing into my throat. When I surfaced, gagging, I saw it. Saw the tongue whip into Sam's throat, his screams swallowed into silence. The thing raised its head. Its eyes rolled under that milky veil. It smiled at me, And then Sam, somehow, dragged me up. "Run," he gasped. We ran, through twisting trees, through mud that grabbed our boots. I heard it behind us, laughing, a sound like a hog squealing and a man cackling. We burst into a clearing. A cabin stood waiting, sagging but intact. Sam fumbled with keys, shoved us inside, barred the door, lit a candle. The room was small, dust thick, bed half eaten by mice. "What is it?" I whispered. "Never seen it before," Sam said. "But my granddad." He told stories. Then he stopped talking. A wet sound bubbled from his chest. He shook, eyes glassy, sweat pouring. Black liquid spilled from his mouth, his nose, his ears. A stench filled the cabin. "My granddad came back from the woods like this," he whispered. "Didn't last the night." The porch groaned. Something scraped the door. Sam pressed my knife into my hand. "Please," he begged, "don't let me die like him." The deadbolt cracked. The door creaked open. I cut his throat. His blood sprayed hot and black, burning my skin. The thing stepped inside. I knelt in the filth, sobbing. A long hand rested on my head. Fingers stroked my face. A sound clicked in its throat. Then it left, dragging Sam's body into the woods. I stayed until dawn. When I finally stumbled to Penelope, I saw it. On her hood, smeared in black gore, was a huge X, and in the center, my pocket knife, clean, folded, waiting. That forest was meant to be forgotten, but it never will be. It will haunt me forever. The story ends here, but the terror does not. Join me again, like, comment, and subscribe if you dare.